Welcome back. Our conversation tonight is on the Kenya-UK relations. My panel is fully constituted, but before I introduce them, let's just see one story that will set the pace for our conversation tonight. In the period between 1952 and 1960 marked the height of real conflict between Kenyans and their British colonial master. Within this time, Kenya was under a state of emergency imposed by the British colonial government in order to launch a counter-insurgency campaign against the Mau Mau fighters who are unleashing attacks on the white settlers from the Aberdare and Mount Kenya forest. But when the guns finally went silent and freedom beckoned, the government of founding President Mzee Jomo Kenyatta established ties that would bind Kenya and Britain to date. Betty Kiptum explores the ever-growing relation between Kenya and our former colonial masters.
In August 1963, Prime Minister Jomo Kenyatta met with 300 white farmers in Nakuru. He reassured them that they would be safe and welcome in the independent Kenya, and more broadly talked of forgiving and forgetting the conflicts of the past.
And this is the government policy. We believe that the Kenya is large enough. Kenya potentiality is great. And all of us, and I'm not telling you this because I'm in your meeting, I'm telling you what I believe and what my government believes. That white, brown, black can work together harmoniously in this country and make this country great.
Fast forward to 60 years later, and the two countries have lived to the spirit and mood anchored in the reassurance delivered by Jomo Kenyatta to the white settlers. In 2020, the two countries announced a new strategic partnership. Their joint statement spoke of a deep, diverse and historic relationship anchored in a shared set of values and a mutual understanding of the benefits that can accrue from strong bilateral collaboration. This positive interpretation of the relationship has characterized almost the entire post-colonial period between London and Nairobi. Going back again in 1963, when Malcolm MacDonald arrived in Nairobi as Britain's last colonial governor, he recognized Kenyatta as someone that Britain could work with. Rather than being the radical he was perceived to be during the clamor for independence, Jomo Kenyatta of independent Kenya appeared to root for close ties with Britain, and this suited Britain's interests.
We believe that Kenyans are one nation. It is also consistent with the African people's past and present efforts to secure unity. It is also the logical answer to the challenge which Kenya or any new nation must face after independence. The consolidation of independence, urgent economic reconstruction and development, the need to make an impact and have influence at Pan-African and international affairs must be our immediate aim.
A much closer relationship was established over time between the United Kingdom and Kenya than with many of Britain's former African colonies. This included the British training of the Kenya Army and, in return, the British military using training facilities in Kenya. When rumors of a possible military coup against Jomo Kenyatta's government reached the British government in 1965, plans to intervene militarily were hatched, thereby preempting the problem. Not everything in the relationship was always easy. Most notably, Kenyan policies discriminating against Asian Kenyans in 1967-68 led many to seek a new life in Britain. As a result, the UK government passed legislation to limit the right of Asian Kenyans to enter the UK, despite them holding British passports, demanding that potential immigrants had existing family ties to the UK. When President Idi Amin expelled Uganda's Asian population in 1972, Britain offered military and financial aid to Kenya to ensure it did not pursue a similar policy. During Jomo Kenyatta's rule, the close relationship was cemented, and the broad outline of today's partnership was established. Prince Charles attended Kenyatta's funeral in 1978, and since then, the relationship has continued to matter to both sides. There has been some challenges. In 2013, Mau Mau veterans who had sued the British government received a settlement in the British High Court of £19.9 million. The British Foreign Secretary William Hague announced to Parliament that the British government recognizes that Kenyans were subject to torture and other forms of ill treatment at the hands of the colonial administration. The British government sincerely regrets that these abuses took place and that they marred Kenya's progress towards independence, he said. Historians had already exposed the British government's brutal role in the Mau Mau rebellion, but this was a striking admission by the UK government of colonial abuses. In 2011, the International Criminal Court opened cases for crimes against humanity against Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto, who were then running for president and deputy president. Prior to the election, the British government said they would have only essential contacts with the two if they won. After their electoral victory in 2013, pragmatism took over, and Britain was the first Western country to invite President Uhuru Kenyatta. At the time, Kenyatta was still facing charges at The Hague, which were later dropped. When President William Ruto attended Queen Elizabeth's funeral in London, his remarks on her death include, "The Queen's leadership of the Commonwealth for the past 7 decades is admirable. We will miss the cordial ties she enjoyed with Kenya, and may her memories continue to inspire us." Ruto highlighted the Queen's commitment to the Commonwealth as another area where the two countries have frequently cooperated. For both the British and Kenyan governments, a close connection since independence has been worth pursuing and mutually beneficial. Betty Kiptum, Channel 1.
All right, thank you very much, Betty Kiptum. That story sets the pace for our conversation tonight. And I'm joined by the Honorable Fred Ikana, the MP for Shinyalu constituency. He's also a member of the Defense, Intelligence and Foreign Relations Committee in the National Assembly, as well as the Honorable Simon Gikuru. He's a CAS nominee for ICT and Digital Economy. Both of you gentlemen are very much welcome to the show. Mheshimiwa, to start us off, the state banquet yesterday, there was an expectation and there was a demand by members of the public, particularly the Mau Mau veterans and people who suffered atrocities by the British colonial rule, for an apology. What we got was a regret. I don't know, what, as a member of the Defense, Intelligence and Foreign Relations Committee, what you read about that and whether it met your expectation.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Many thanks for the invitation to come and share some ideas and information with Kenyans. I really want to appreciate.
Karibu.
Yeah, yesterday banquet at status, of course, a lot of Kenyans were watching with a lot of expectations on what exactly will come out of it. I was one of those that participated in the event. And just like many Kenyans, of course, I had a lot of expectations on what to expect from the King's visit. As you have mentioned, the President set a gear yesterday by actually demanding for reparations for the atrocities that were committed against Kenyans, both during the struggle for independence and even those that were misused, I'll use the word misused, during the world wars. But of course, when the King took the podium yesterday, he did come out quite clearly to apologize or offer any form of a promise towards the request that was before him. But his tone, you could tell also, to give him a bit of credit, his tone was a little bit of more of sorrowful and regretful, saying that in as much as we have a painful history, let's forge ahead and see how we can strengthen the ties between our two countries.
We'll come back to that point about him being sorrowful. But I mean, that tone, CAS, did it sound to you like there are any reparations coming on the way of any, probably for the veterans or the people who suffered atrocities? Did it offer any?
Well, I took my time to listen to King Charles during the banquet. And honestly speaking, I think when you listen to the choice of words, And as Mheshimiwa Ikana says, the tone of his speech, you realize that, or you come out with the impression that he's truly concerned about our past, or rather how we've related with Britain as a nation. Of course, we've had a mixed sort of relations when you look at it, because as much as we are talking about that very harsh and brutal, dark part of the colonizer, you also have to look at the aspect of the transfer of civilization. And this is what now defines Kenya. Because when you talk about Kenya and how we relate with the Great Britain, you realize that we have borrowed so much of our culture, our way of life, our civilization. I'm an advocate of the High Court. I can tell you for sure that if you look at our legal system, for example, which is conducted under what you call the common law system. Common law system is nothing short of British civilization that has happened over time, thousands of years. And these people came, yes, they had that very dark side of it. But come on, I mean, we just got it within not as long as they had, taken to develop it. So I think for me, as a lover of history and having studied our relations with the UK, as a student of history, I would say that he did very well. Choice of words, deeply sorrowful. He's talking about painful aspects of our past and of our wrongdoings. I mean, come on, what more do you want? It's a matter of English here. I think he did it. I think he did very well.
It's an interesting one, but Mheshimiwa, obviously, Mheshimiwa Ikana, because of the relations that Kenya enjoys with the Britain, there is almost a near impossibility that the Kenya government is going to sue on behalf of these veterans. But as the representatives of Kenyans, based on this sorrowful tone that you talk about, are we probably going to see your committee probably pursue this matter beyond the sorrowful tone?
Of course, as I mentioned before, the president said the tone. It's also important to note that we have various Mau movements who have gone to court seeking reparations and compensation for the atrocities that were caused to our Mau heroes and veterans. And it's sad that it has really taken long before the Mau veterans get justice, because a lot of them are now very old and frail. Some have died, and we hope they will get justice very soon. I am not going to commit on behalf of the committee because I am not authorized to do that. But I will say definitely, as right-thinking Kenyans, as patriotic Kenyans, if there is anything that we as leaders can do to support our people get any form of justice or compensation from the crimes and inhuman torture that was meted upon them, that is an undertaking that right-thinking leaders, as right-thinking leaders, should be able to see how best to support. Looking at also the relationship in the general view, let us not concentrate just on the dark past, but let's also look at how far we have come. Let us look at what we have been able to achieve in terms of harnessing the relationship that we have enjoyed with the UK government, right from independence to date, the support that they have given this country from infancy to now 60 plus years. And I would say those are some of the positives that we need to dwell on. We need to look at what other areas that we can seek partnership. We have had long-standing relationship in terms of education support, our curriculum development, and even Kenyans who are seeking for job opportunities in the United Kingdom. We have a lot of Kenyans in the diaspora of the UK working in different capacities and in different fields. We also have UK as one of our biggest trading partner in the European markets. Actually, almost 56% of our black tea is consumed in the UK. So those are some of the things that I will be looking at as a leader, and encouraging all that will be engaging with the dignitaries that are visiting us to ensure that we continue deepening these relationships, we continue fostering trade agreements, and also encourage tourism.
Mheshimiwa Gikuru, obviously this trip, I would agree probably with Mheshimiwa that it was shrouded so much by the apology demand that probably the real intention of what the significance of this visit is was a bit clouded. But from where you see it, what is the import of this visit by the king?
Yeah, very well, Jacob. First, I would want to go back a bit and we look at the words of our founding father, the late Mzee Jomo Kenyatta. The clip has just been played here, and when you listen to him and also the spirit at that moment when Kenya was a very young nation, he uses the terms, let us forgive and forget. I think that has been the spirit, and I agree with you that we are so much into this so-called apology and we are forgetting that this visit is much more significant to Kenyans. It's much more significant to our relations as two nations than a mere apology. And if anything, if you listen to the choice of words and the tonnage of it, I think more or less it's almost there. In terms of reparations, I think you've seen in the past, many people have gone to court. As Mheshimiwa says, we've had several Mau groupings, and there was some 19-point-something million pounds that were paid. So I think let us now move, because the world has moved. We have also moved. And I think it puts President William Ruto at the peak of his game. If you look at the way he has managed to endear this nation and cement our relations with our partners out there, I must say that he's done a very commendable job. As a matter of fact, I have no doubt in my mind that President Ruto is going to go down in history as the true father of modern Kenya. He's being hailed all over Africa as, as the new face of, the new Africa, the agitation for economic emancipation of our people. And so it's not just about an apology now. It's about what can we gain from our friends. How do we cement our relations more? So that then when he was campaigning, when he tells people it's about bringing money into your pocket and it's about the hustler nation and that common money down there, how do we then talk to our partners to make sure that that campaign promise is achieved? Right. And I think for me, that should be the focus. As he says, if you look at statistics, the UK is actually the largest European nation that has invested in Kenya. It's the largest European investor in Kenya. And the single most, or rather the largest trading partner as well, in terms of investment and in terms of trade. So I think that is where the discussion and the debate should be around. Right. How many Kenyans, young people will get employment opportunities? What trade opportunities are there for farmers and for crop products and all that? I think that is what His Excellency William Ruto is looking at. Of course, it has a lot of symbolism given our history, but I think of importance is how is Kenya as a nation going to benefit and its people.
What we stand to gain. Mheshimiwa, in your sitting in that committee, because it appeared like Nairobi's position in the diplomatic circles appeared to be waning before. The coming of several heads of state that have come in the tenure of President William Ruto, and now the king, do you think it restores Nairobi's position as a center of diplomacy?
Definitely. Nairobi is a very important center of diplomacy, not just in the region, but the whole of Africa. I will agree with you that the President, William Ruto, has really done a lot in terms of placing Kenya on the global map, in terms of diplomacy, in terms of negotiating for agreements, and opening up our space both for investments and even tourism. The number of heads of state that have visited this country over the last 1 year since President William Ruto was sworn in is very, very high. Every other month, you will see a new head of state coming to Kenya, or a head of a mission coming to discuss important matters, not just affecting our region, but the entire world. And actually it brings me to the point where I would like to request some of the people who are grumbling about our president's foreign trips and visits. These are some of the fruits that we are seeing, because it's out of those engagements on the global stage that the president is making that is bringing a lot of attention to our region. So Nairobi is an important hub. I am very, very happy. Looking at the current King's visit, you will note that this is the first country in the Commonwealth region, among the Commonwealth countries, and even among the former colonies of the UK, that the King is visiting. What does that tell you? It is very, very important to look at where we are now and what we are doing to ensure that we firmly position ourselves in the global space.
All right.
Matters diplomacy.
Mheshimiwa Gikuru, Britain is obviously way richer than the Republic of Kenya in terms of resources and its connections. But it is no longer the giant that it was so many years ago. So as you point us towards what President William Ruto's goal is, what can we tap from the UK? Because that's a big question.
Oh yeah, I mean, a good question there. If you look at the King himself as a person and his interests, and the choice of Kenya as a country to visit, as Ikana says, the first within the Commonwealth and the first outside Europe, that tells you that we are in a very strategic position as a nation. First and foremost, within the region as the gateway to the Great Lakes, and of course as the economic hub for the East African region. The King I've seen that he has a lot of interest in marine conservation.
Yes.
He has a lot of interest in youth empowerment. He has a lot of interest in organic farming. As a matter of fact, I think he is one of the largest organic farmers in the UK. So when you ask what we stand to gain, I mean, come on, military exchange, if you see what's happening in Nanyuki, the joint training of our military forces, I think it's just everything that we are looking for. Because remember, this is an economy that has matured, and ours is just, starting to blossom and to come up. So I think we have every reason to cultivate this relationship. I was listening to the UK ambassador the other day, and he was saying the UK is short of nurses, professional nurses. Yeah. We have so many of our young people here who could go there and offer those services. And as a matter of fact, I want to believe that he already extended that invitation. So I think it's everything that we are looking for, from a trade, from a market for crops, coming all the way to even education and scholarship opportunities, to sophisticated stuff like climate change and military exchanges. I think it's what we are looking for. It's a relationship that we must really cultivate.
Yes. I'll probably to double back to Mheshimiwa to also get your perspective as regards what Kenya stands to gain out of now its relationship, or the renewed relationship now that the King is here.
Oh, thank you. First and foremost, I wanted to be known that on the request of our president, who has been very, very keen in enabling our diaspora networks work and prosper, the King actually had an engagement with the Kenyans living in the UK diaspora before coming to this country. So that is one area that I am very, very hopeful that we are going to benefit from, empowering and enhancing our diaspora networks in the UK. And number two, trade and trade linkages. I am very hopeful that this visit of the King will enable us harness our international markets, especially our export market to the UK, and encourage most of our farmers, especially the fresh produce farmers and our tea farmers, to even get more value and derive more value from their exports. Then number 3 of also most significance is the tourism sector. The king himself, as we speak, he is in our coast region. Yeah. I'm sure he is sampling what this country has to offer. And even in his own speech yesterday, he made a confession that one of the items that really stood in his late mother's diary was his visit to Kenya in 1952. That she says that she couldn't stop thinking about the beautiful landscapes of this country and what this country has to offer in terms of nature and beauty. So I'm very hopeful that various sectors of this economy will benefit from this widely and globally publicized visit of the king.
Also, also remember that this visit by King Charles actually has a theme. Ireland has a theme, which is something around youth, sustainability, and innovation. So that tells you that it's not just a mere visit. It has a lot of symbolism. It has a lot of. It is a well thought trip. And so, given and going by the theme of the visit, youth, sustainability, and innovation, that tells you that our young people, whom the president keeps thinking about and trying to make sure that the government supports, will obviously have all these opportunities across all sectors in Kenya, given the theme of the visit by the king.
Is it possible to tap, because listening to the king last night, you get a sense that he's also a champion of climate change, just like President William Ruto. Is it possible to tap billions of shillings of investments into Kenya to obviously help the Republic in dealing with climate change efforts?
I think when it comes to issues of climate change, the UK is one of those countries that has already pledged to put in funds for compensation because of their pollution from the carbon credits. And so I think it's not just about climate change. That's just one aspect that we'll obviously be benefiting from. But as I mentioned earlier, he's a champion of marine conservation. Part of the reason why he's going to Mombasa, to make sure that the marine life and the opportunities, the blue economy itself, is another area that you can see a lot of opportunities, and probably funds will keep flowing. So I think it's a whole ecosystem. And when a king visits in town, you listen to the president yesterday during the dinner, even the kingpins would have to stop the cat fights. So it's quite a serious thing. It's putting us up there in the global map, and we have to really give it to His Excellency President William Ruto.
As it puts Kenya on the global map, Mheshimiwa Ikana, there's the small matter of visa application, particularly with the UK embassy for Kenyans seeking visa to the UK. Is it a matter that your committee will be pursuing, particularly to ensure that the restrictions around the visa application are eased now that we say we have good relations, we are a former colony? Is it something that your committee can be able to pursue?
Yes, of course. It's very important that we ensure that we have harmonious working relationships in terms of visas and visa issuance for Kenyans who want to pursue their dreams in the diaspora. And I think that is one of the cornerstones of President William Ruto's administration. First, one of the things that he has deliberately done has been establishing the Department of Diaspora with a fully fledged office and a principal secretary. Her name is Rosalind Njogu. So our committee, as a Foreign Relations Committee in Parliament, is working very closely with PS Rosalind Njogu's State Department of Diaspora Affairs, ensuring that where there are bottlenecks that can be removed, either through diplomacy or through even negotiations, the route is pursued. Also of very important to highlight, you will notice that A few weeks ago, the president nominated several ambassadors and heads of missions. And that is the task that our committee has been undertaking for the last 1 week or so, and still continuing. You realize that for the first time in so many years, the president has been very deliberate in ensuring that he nominates more of the professional diplomats in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, as opposed to what has been a culture in the past, where only people with some kind of political influence are nominated to head our embassies and missions. So I think the president is very keen on ensuring that there is seamless service delivery in terms of engaging our partners abroad. And one of our key partners, as you mentioned, is the UK. I'm hopeful that we will have a harmonious relationship in visa issuance, not just the UK, but even the US, the Canada, and whatever, so that Kenyans can travel abroad and seek greener pastures and bring back investments in this country. Thank you.
Unfortunately, you have to wind up. Mheshimiwa Gikuru, 1 minute for your closing remarks before we wind up, as well as 1 minute for Mheshimiwa Ikana.
While we really thank President William Ruto and also commend him for a job well done, I will also want to commend His Excellency Dr. Musalia Mudavadi, who is the PCS and the Minister for Foreign Affairs, because we've seen him feature prominently, quite prominently during this visit. And he has also made Kenyans very proud. You can see the way he received the king. I think he must be his escort of honor, and the way he is by his side. So I think the Kenya Kwanza administration is moving towards the right direction in terms of what we promised Kenyans and what we are delivering. So I think let's give it to the president and his Minister for Foreign Affairs for this very, very, very successful, historic and very symbolic visit by King Charles and Queen Camilla of the Great Britain. As I wind up, allow me to wish success to all the candidates who are sitting their examinations across the nation. We wish them well, and the Kenya Kwanza government is looking forward to support all young people. As a matter of fact, our vision as a coalition is to create digital citizens. So we want to encourage young people to take up, to work harder, pass the examinations, join the workforce, and the government is there to support them. Thank you very much.
Mheshimiwa Ikana, your 1 minute.
Thank you so much. I also want to really congratulate the President and the Prime Cabinet Secretary, who is also the Minister in charge of our foreign relations, for placing this country out there as a very important partner in global affairs. I also want to take this opportunity to wish the King, His Majesty the King, and Her Majesty the Queen a very wonderful stay in Kenya. When they go back to the UK, I'm hopeful that they will be our greatest ambassadors in advocating for even stronger relationships and ties with this country. And finally, I want to wish all my candidates in my constituency, Shinyalu constituency in Kakamega County, the very best in their examinations. I'm not just to say the Shinyalu candidates alone. I want to extend the same best of luck wishes to all candidates in the Republic of Kenya. Please sit for the examinations and observe all the rules and regulations and keep the discipline. And God will lead you through. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fred Ikana, the Honorable Member of Parliament for Shinyalu, and Simon Gikuru, the nominee ICT and Digital Economy for the position of CES. Thank you very much for your insight as regards the King's visit. I'm sure there are those who were asking questions yesterday as we were on air. Where is the Deputy President, Riggy? He landed this morning. By the way, he has held a cabinet subcommittee this morning. That means then the questions you are asking are well answered. Thank you very much, both of you gentlemen.
Thank you,
for joining us. So we put a cap on Prime Edition. Thank you very much for joining us. God bless.
Thank you.
More yours.